We've been taught that a blessing is always an addition: more health, more money, or a life without obstacles. But what if God's greatest favor was actually the times He said no? What if the door that stayed locked was the only thing that saved you from a storm you couldn't see? If you feel forgotten today because your life didn't go as planned, you aren't lacking favor. You're just misreading the signs. Today, we'll uncover 5 quiet ways you are profoundly blessed, starting with the losses that were actually your greatest protection. The first sign that you are being profoundly favored is often the one that feels the most like a failure. It is the protection of the unopened door. Think back to the things you once begged for with tears in your eyes. That career path that seemed like your only chance, the relationship you thought was the one, or the plan you were certain would fix everything. When those doors stayed locked, despite your prayers and your hard work, it felt like you had been forgotten. It felt like the divine had turned his back on you. But as you sit here today, with the wisdom of the years behind you, I want you to look at those locked doors again. From this higher ground, you can finally see what was actually waiting on the other side. Often we are like children crying because we weren't allowed to play with a sharp, beautiful knife. We only saw the shine, but God saw the edge. If you can look back at your greatest disappointments and feel a sudden, quiet shiver of relief knowing that if you had gotten what you wanted then, you wouldn't have the peace you have now, that is a clear sign. You weren't being denied. You were being redirected to a life that wouldn't break you. God didn't ignore your prayer. He answered the prayer you weren't wise enough to pray yet. The second sign that God's hand is upon you is something the world cannot explain and no amount of money can buy. It is a peace that defies logic. Think of a time when everything around you seemed to be falling apart. Perhaps it was a medical diagnosis that shook your world, a family crisis, or a season of deep uncertainty. According to the world, you should have been in despair. Even you expected yourself to break. But instead you found a strange, quiet stillness in the center of your chest. This isn't the absence of a storm, it is the presence of an anchor. If you have ever looked at a chaotic situation and felt an unexplainable calm, a sense that, somehow, everything would be okay even if you didn't know how, that was not your own strength. That was a divine gift. When you can sleep through a night that should have been spent in worry, or when you can offer a smile of hope while walking through a valley of shadows, you are carrying a signature of favor. God doesn't always stop the wind from blowing, but He blesses you by making you unshakable in the midst of it. You have a sanctuary inside you that the world didn't build, and therefore, the world cannot take away. The third sign that God is working deeply in your life is a quiet, internal shift. It is the supernatural ability to forgive and let go. As we move through our 50s, 60s, and beyond, we all carry a bag of old resentments. Maybe it's a family feud that lasted decades, a betrayal from a former friend, or a deep wound from a parent. For years, that bitterness felt like a heavy chain around your soul. It kept you awake, it colored your judgment, and it drained your joy. If you find, lately, that the anger you once held so tightly is starting to evaporate, if you no longer feel the need to get even or to hear an apology that will never come, that is a divine blessing. Forgiveness is not about saying what the other person did was okay. It is God removing the poison from your own cup so you don't have to drink it anymore. When you can look at an old scar and no longer feel the burn, or better yet, when you can find a quiet prayer of peace for the one who hurt you, you are witnessing a miracle. You haven't just gotten over it with time. God has softened the soil of your heart to make room for something better. You aren't just getting older. You are finally becoming light enough to fly. The fourth sign that you are living under a divine umbrella of favor is one we often overlook because it feels so ordinary. It is the blessing of sufficient provision. In our younger years, we thought a blessing meant a surplus, a mountain of wealth, a storehouse that never emptied. But as we sit on this porch today, we realize that the most meticulous grace is found in the just enough. Think of the seasons in your life when you didn't know how you would make it to the next month. The times when the bridge seemed too long and your strength too short. And yet here you are. Somehow, the bill was paid. Somehow, a friend showed up at the exact right moment. Somehow, you had just enough manna for that one day. If you can look at your journey and see that despite the storms, you have never been truly forsaken, that you've always had a roof, a meal, and the breath to continue, that is not luck. That is sovereign care. God doesn't always give us a map for the whole year. He gives us a lamp for the next step. When you stop worrying about the mountains of tomorrow and start noticing the daily bread on your table today, you are witnessing a miracle of faithfulness. You are being tended to, minute by minute, by a hand that never tires. The fifth and final sign that you are deeply favored by the divine is a transformation of your vision. It is the ability to see the sacred in the ordinary. As our physical eyes begin to dim with age, God often opens the eyes of our soul. You know you are blessed when the things that used to seem small now feel like the most important things in the world. A quiet cup of coffee in the morning light. The sound of a grandchild's laughter. The way the wind moved through the trees. If you can sit on your porch and feel a profound sense of awe and wonder at just being alive, that is a miracle of the highest order. Most people spend their lives chasing the spectacular, only to realize at the end that they miss the holy moments hiding in plain sight. If your heart has become a collector of these quiet moments, if you can find beauty in a wrinkled hand or a fading sunset, you have been given God's own eyes. This new way of seeing changes everything. You no longer look at your life and see a story that is ending. You see a story that is finally reaching its deepest, most meaningful chapter. You aren't just a spectator of the world anymore. You have become a vessel for its light. And that, my friend, is the greatest blessing of all. As the sun dips a little lower on our porch today, I want you to remember one thing: your life is not a series of accidents. It is a carefully written story, and you are far more loved than you have ever dared to imagine. If you recognized even one of these signs in your journey lately, please don't keep it to yourself. Leave a light in the comments below by sharing which sign resonated with you the most. Your story might be the very message someone else needs to hear today to keep going. If this conversation brought a moment of peace to your soul, I invite you to join our community here at the Silver Porch. Subscribe and stay with us as we continue to uncover the beauty and wisdom of these golden years. Thank you for spending this time with me. It is a privilege to walk this path beside you. May your evening be long, your heart be light, and your soul be still. God bless you, and I will see you again very soon.